your real name? Did I guess? Were we thinking this just a little bit at least? Is Boo your real name? This has been, by and large, the number one question that people have ever asked me. And to be honest with you, I've always given a short, summarized version, and tonight I wanted to explore the idea just a little bit. And the reason I wanted to explore this idea just a little bit is because when I got the topic of rise above the waves, to me, this is the one fundamental thing that I feel like I have done to prepare myself for when those waves hit. As I started to think about it, I tell everybody that I talk to, I am not a motivational speaker. I'm not here for inspiration. To me, that's something that everybody has to find within themselves, but if I can provide a couple of tools that have helped me, then maybe when you find that motivation, they can help you. Now, Boo is a name that I have spent the majority of my life running away from. Started off as a childhood nickname like many of us give our kids, like many of us have probably had. And as I got older, the name never changed. And no matter how much I tried to run away from it, it stuck. At 12 years old, I remember finding it somehow on the back of a baseball jersey. And I had to correct everybody and say, no, my name's Steven. Followed me into high school where everybody in class knew me as Steven, but my close friends always called me Boo. Followed me again to Jackson, Mississippi, where I was affectionately referred to as Elder Boo for the better part of 7 months. Followed me again into marriage. My wife was introduced through my cousins who all know me as Boo. And on our, we'd been dating for about a month and a half. I picked her up for a date and she jumped in the truck and she punched me in the arm. She goes, "Your real name's not Boo." And I said, "You're right." So if it's a name that's followed me around, why is it an idea worth sharing? Why is it a name and an idea that's worth sharing on a stage like this? And for me, it's because, like I said, this has been the number one coping skill for me. So if it's so powerful, if it means something, if it's such a sticky nickname for you, why spend years trying to run away from it? I imagine it's like a lot of you in childhood. When things are said and done to you, my generation refers to this as childhood trauma. It's the things that were said to us. It's the things that were done to us. It's the things that made us want to block out a big portion of who we are to fit societal norms, to fit societal expectations. And I think that's where my generation takes it, but I want to take it one step further because I think a big piece of this for me as a kid was not only the things that I heard and not only the things that were done to me and not only the things that were said to me, but it was how I internalized it. It was how I heard things. I would hear things like, "Don't be lazy." And I internalized that as work and prioritize nothing else. I heard things like, "Take this seriously," which I internalized to mean, don't have fun. Don't prioritize things that are fun to you. So as a kid, we start to hear these things, we start to see these things, and we start to close off a portion of who we are. We start to hide some of these things that are sacred to our nature. And I hid those for a very long time. I hid it until I got into my professional career. I spent years going by Steven because to me, Steven was who I needed to be in order to excel in life. Steven was the person that would go and get things done. Steven was the person that could go and work through all hours of the night to get whatever he needed to done. So it was a safety mechanism. I was becoming the person that I thought I had to be because of those expectations and those internalizations that I had. And the armor that I built as Steven was incredibly powerful. I sold a lot of houses and I prioritized things that were not supposed to be prioritized. I hid a lot of things from myself. I hid a lot of things from my wife because at this point, I was just trying to survive. I think that's why we do this. I think that's why we close off these things that make us feel vulnerable, that make us feel scared. And so from the outside looking in, I had everything going correctly. My career was on the right track, but internally something was breaking. As I grew up a little bit and as I stopped running from the name and just started to introduce myself as Boo, I'll be honest, it was kind of a sales gimmick at first. It was a branding play. But eventually when I stopped running from it, I realized that there was a lot of power in being who I was supposed to be. And now I have to be honest with you guys. I didn't realize this at first. I was very content and very happy with the direction that my life was going. But I think as we build up this big armor and we put it on, oftentimes it's the small things in our life that start to break that armor down just a little bit. Mine came in the form of my daughter. I remember looking at her at 3 years old, and I was very frustrated because to me, I could communicate with whoever I wanted to in my life. I could communicate at a high level, get people to purchase homes, and I was doing it really, really well. But the person that I cared about the most, I was unable to communicate with. And not being able to communicate with a 3-year-old is a fascinating spot to find yourself, because you have two choices. You can either blame the 3-year-old or you can blame yourself. So that armor started to get chipped away just a little bit. It got chipped away in ways when I started to realize that the reactions that I was having was not true to who I was as a person. When I started to realize that I was not living the life that Boo wanted to live, I had to start tearing it down. I had to start piece by piece tearing it down, and it was a very uncomfortable process. The awareness that would come when I realized that I'm spanking my son and I have no desire to do that, but I'm reacting to what I thought I'm supposed to be doing in this situation, was a dark place to find myself. So I started to explore just a little bit. I started to take stock and figure out, okay, if I'm going to go by Boo, what is important to Boo? Who is this person that has been living inside of me that is probably the original person here? As I started to tear it down and step into my own and step into this person who I thought I was always supposed to be, it felt weird, because I think that oftentimes it gets convoluted. We expect that when we step into authenticity, that it's going to feel natural, that it's going to feel comfortable, that it's going to feel normal. I have vivid memories of forcing myself into learning to communicate with my daughter. The way I did this was by driving her to school every morning. Y'all, when I tell you that those were some of the most uncomfortable conversations that I have ever had, I mean it. It felt clunky. It felt awkward. See, during this time when I was masquerading as Stephen, I was not the person that I wanted to be. And letting go of that was incredibly difficult. But the motivation that I had was what I needed in order to get over that. And so the invitation, the conversation today is, why do this? Why go through this? Why burn everything down to figure out who you are? Why step into a new chapter of who you're supposed to be? And ultimately it comes back to, because this is about rising above the waves. And what I thought my family needed, what I thought my wife needed, what I thought my kids needed was not right. What I am here to have a conversation about today is that your family needs you. Your family needs all of you. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be clunky, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But ultimately, I think it's the most important thing that you can do, because your family doesn't need some superhero version of you. The people in your life doesn't need some superhero version of what you think you're supposed to be. Ultimately, it's going to come down to making the choice. It's going to come down to making a choice on if this is worth giving up and stepping into full vulnerability. For me, it's been the single greatest thing that I could do. I used to make the joke when I was at the height of my production days, when I was selling a bunch of houses, that I focused on selling real estate and my wife took care of everything else. It's led to some, like I've been saying, some dark moments. But ultimately, it's allowed me to step into the light to where I can be the person that I need to be for my kids. Thank you.